An MG midget pulls alongside a Rolls Royce at a traffic light. Guy says, "You got a car phone?" And the guy in the Rolls says, "Of course I do." "Well, you got a fax machine?" Driver in the Rolls sighs. "I have that too." "Well, then do you have a double bed in the back?" The ashen-faced Rolls driver spat off. That afternoon, he had a mechanic install a double bed in his auto. A week later, Rolls driver passes the same NG midget. This car's parked on the side of the road, back windows fogged up, and steam's pouring out. The arrogant Rolls driver pulls over, gets out of the Rolls, bangs on the midget's back window till the driver sticks his head out. He says, "I want you to know I had a double bed installed," brags the Rolls driver. The midget driver says, "You get me out of the fucking shower to tell me that? Are you kidding?" This oily, disreputable-looking fellow walks into a bank with a big sack on his back, and seeing an open teller, the man walks up to the young lady and places the sack on the counter. He says, "I want to open a fucking savings account." I'm sorry, sir. We prefer polite customers." "Okay, look, I just want to open a fucking bank account." "I'm sorry, sir, but you just can't speak that way." And the supervisor, seeing trouble, went over to check on the situation. She got there, got the story from the teller, and she tries another tack. She decided she'd handle it herself. "How may I help you?" she asks, all smiles. "Listen, I just want to open a fucking savings account." "Look, I'm sorry," she says. "We don't deal with people who use vulgar language." Finally, the bank manager sees. She comes over to settle it. "What's the matter here?" he says. "Look," the customer says, "I just won $47 million in the lottery. I wanted to open a fucking savings account and deposit the cash in." The manager says, "Oh, are these two bitches giving you trouble?" These are real Hollywood Squares answers, and we play Hollywood Squares on Thursdays. These are some of the old answers.
Okay.
Peter Marshall was the host asking these. "Paul, what's a good reason for pounding meat?" Paul Lind says, "Loneliness." The audience laughed so long and hard it took up 15 minutes of the show that night. "Paul, do female frogs croak?" Paul Lind says, "If you hold their little heads underwater long enough." All right, this is for Charlie Weaver. If you're going to make a parachute jump, Charlie, at least how high should you be? And Charlie says, 3 days of steady drinking should do it. All right, this is for George Goebel. True or false, George? A pea can last as long as 5,000 years. And George says, "Boy, it sure seems that way sometimes." Well, that was for you, thinker.
Yeah.
Don Knotts. The question is, you've been having trouble going to sleep. Don, are you probably a man or a woman? And Don Knotts says, "That's what's been keeping me awake." Rosa Marie. According to Cosmopolitan Rose, if you meet a stranger at a party and you think he's attractive, is it okay to come out and ask him if he's married? And Rose Marie says, "Oh no, wait till morning." Charlie Weavers. Hey, Charlie, which of your 5 senses tends to diminish as you get older? Charlie says, my sense of decency. This is for Vincent Price. In Hawaiian, does it take more than 3 words to say "I love you," Vincent? Vincent says, "No, you can say it with a pineapple and a 20. George Goebel's question. All right, George, what are "do it," "I can help," and "I can't get enough"? George Goebel says, "I don't know, but it's coming from the next apartment." As you grow older, Rosemarie, do you tend to gesture more or less with your hands while talking? Rosemarie says, "You ask me one more growing old question, Peter, and I'll give you a gesture you'll never forget." Paul, why do Hell's Angels wear leather? Paul says, because chiffon wrinkles too easily. For Charlie, you've just decided to grow strawberries. Are you going to get any during the first year? Charlie Weaver says, of course not. I'm too busy growing strawberries. I'll save the rest of these for later because it's 8:50 and I know you have more jokes and announcements.
Actually, you can keep going. Why not? For another 5 minutes.
All right, I have some more. So you just say, hey,
well, let's see. Does anybody else want to tell jokes tonight?
Yeah.
Anyone? Okay, you keep going. Why not? Yeah.
All right, well, this is for Rosemarie. Rosemarie, in bowling, what's a perfect score? She says, Ralph, the pin boy. Paul Lynn's question. All right, Paul, it's considered in bad taste to discuss two subjects at nudist camps. One of them is politics. What is the other? Paul Lynn says, tape measures.
No.
Rosemarie, during a tornado, are you safer in the bedroom or in the closet? And Rosemarie says, unfortunately, Peter, I'm always safe in the bedroom. Marty Allen's question. Can boys join the campfire girls? Marty says, only after lights out. For Paul Lynn, when you pat a dog on his head, he'll wag his tail. What will a goose do? And Paul Lynn says, make him bark? You stick your finger on me. All right, for Paul Lind, if you were pregnant for 2 years, what would you give birth to, Paul? Paul says, whatever it is, it would never be afraid of the dark. All right, for Charlie, according to Ann Landers, Charlie, is there anything wrong with getting into the habit of kissing a lot of people? Charlie says, well, hell, it got me out of the army.
No.
Paul, it is the most abused and neglected part of your body. What is it, Paul? Paul says, mine might be abused, but it certainly isn't neglected. George Goebel, back in the old days, when great-grandpa put horseradish on his head, what was he trying to do, George? George says, get it in his mouth. I love that one. Oh, my God, it's so sad. All right, Paul, who stays pregnant for a longer period of time, your wife or your elephant? Paul Lynn says, who told you about my elephant? Charlie, when a couple have a baby, who's responsible for its sex? And Charlie says, I'll lend him the car, the rest is up to him. Jackie Gleason recently revealed he firmly believes in them. He's actually seen them on at least 2 occasions. Charlie, what are they? Charlie says, his feet. Jackie, poor Jackie. And Paul Lind, Paul, according to Ann Landers, what are 2 things you should never do in bed? Paul says, point and laugh. All right, I was visiting my son and my daughter-in-law last night, and I asked if I could borrow a newspaper, and my son's like, this is the 21st century, Ma. We don't waste money on newspapers. Here, borrow my iPad, and I can tell you, that fucking fly never knew what hit it. Seems like God was real tired. He wanted to take a vacation, but he being everywhere at once, it was like a little difficult for him to decide where he wanted to go. And so he called Archangel Gabriel on the carpet. Gabe, I got a problem. I was hoping you could help me out. And Gabe says, I'll try, Lord. God says, look, I need a vacation. I can't decide where I should go. I was hoping you could help me with some suggestions. And Gabriel thinks and goes, how about Mercury? That's kind of a nice place. And God says, too hot. Takes all night to get over the sunburn you get during the day. He's thinking again, and he's like, well, how about Mars? And God says, nope, Mars is too much of a party place. All that whooping and hollering. I never get any rest when I go to Mars. Gabriel's desperate. And he goes, well, how about Earth? And God says, hell no, no way. The last time I went there, I got this little Jewish girl pregnant, and I haven't heard the end of that yet. All right, a last one here. An elderly couple go to a physician complaining about non-specific sexual dysfunction. They ask if he'll watch them having their sex to determine if anything's wrong. And After their session, the MD says everything looks fine, sends them on their way. But the next week, they're back with the same complaint, perform under his judgmental eye once again. And again, he's like, everything really looks normal. Well, the next week they come again, and the doctor's confused. He's like, look, this is the third time you've been in here, and nothing's wrong with the way you're making love. What's really going on here? And the old guy says, well, you see, we're both married, but to each other, so I can't go to her place, she can't go to my place. And now, like Howard Johnson's charges $45 for a room, but you charge $35 for an office visit. Plus, we can write off 30% of this to Medicare. And that's mine for the night, boys and girls.